There's a moment that happens to almost everyone, and it happens so quietly that most people never recognize it for what it is. You're going about your day, maybe washing dishes or sitting in traffic, and suddenly you feel this strange ache. Not sadness exactly, more like homesickness for a life you've never actually lived. You can see it that clearly. The apartment with the light coming in a certain way. The bank balance that doesn't make your stomach drop. The version of you who walks into rooms without rehearsing what to say first. And then, just as fast, something inside you closes the door on it. You think, okay, back to reality. And you go right back to scrubbing the pan. That closing of the door is the entire problem. Not your work ethic, not your timing, not your luck. That one small internal gesture, repeated maybe 40 times a day for the last 15 years, is the reason you feel like you're standing outside a house you already own, patting your pockets for keys that are sitting in your hand. Here's what I want you to sit with. You are not waiting for a result. You're waiting for permission to believe the result is allowed to be yours. And those are completely different problems with completely different solutions, which is why every strategy you've tried has quietly failed you. Let me tell you about a man I'll call Daniel, because the details are close enough to real that changing the name matters. Daniel spent 6 years building a skill set that on paper made him one of the most qualified people in his field. He had the portfolio, he had the testimonials, he had 2 people in his network who would have hired him on a phone call. And every single month, he sat down to send the email that would have changed his income. And every single month, he found a reason it wasn't ready yet. Needed one more case study. Needed a better website. Needed to wait until after the holidays. He wasn't lazy. The man worked 11-hour days. He was guarding something. And what he was guarding was a self-image so old he'd stopped noticing he was carrying it. The belief that he was the kind of guy who almost makes it. Not a failure. Never a failure. Just perpetually, respectably, 6 months away. That identity had a job. That's the part nobody tells you. Your limiting self-concept isn't a defect, it's a security system, and it's been running flawlessly since you were about 7 years old. Somewhere back then, your nervous system took a snapshot of what was safe. Maybe being the modest one kept you from being resented. Maybe staying small kept a struggling parent from feeling worse. Maybe wanting too loudly got you laughed at once in a hallway, and your brain filed that away under never again. Whatever it was, your mind built a room the exact size of that experience, and it has been keeping you inside it ever since. Not out of cruelty, but out of love. Distorted, outdated, fiercely protective love. And here is the psychological truth that reframes everything. Your brain does not distinguish between what is safe and what is familiar. It treats them as the same word, which means a version of your life that is objectively better, more money, more recognition, more love, registers to your survival system as unknown territory, and unknown territory registers as danger. This is why you self-sabotage right at the edge of the breakthrough. Not because you don't want it, because some part of you is convinced that getting it will cost you your safety, and that part of you doesn't argue. It just quietly rewrites your behavior until you're back inside the room. Now watch what most people do when they figure this out. They try to think their way out. They read more. They watch more. They collect frameworks like they're collecting keys for a lock they never actually walk up to. And this is where I need to be blunt with you. Consumption is the most sophisticated procrastination ever invented, because it feels exactly like progress. Your brain gets the same dopamine hit from learning about the thing as it would from doing the thing, minus the risk. You leave the video feeling motivated, which your nervous system interprets as mission accomplished, and the room stays exactly the same size. There's a structural reason logic can't fix this. The part of you that holds your self-concept doesn't speak in arguments. It speaks in images and feelings. You can recite affirmations at the mirror for a year. I am wealthy, I am confident. And if the felt sense underneath is I am someone pretending to be wealthy, your mind files the affirmation as fiction and keeps the original belief perfectly intact. Willpower is a conscious tool trying to renovate a subconscious house. It's a man shouting instructions at a building. This is exactly what Neville Goddard was circling around a century ago, when he said that assumption, though false to the outer senses, will harden into fact if persisted in. Strip away the mystical language, and what he's describing is a mechanism any psychologist would recognize. Your self-concept determines your perception determines your behavior, and your behavior determines your results. Change the self-concept, and you don't have to force new behavior. New behavior becomes the only thing that makes sense. You stop trying to act confident the same way you stop trying to speak your native language. So the real question isn't how to get the thing. The real question is how you install a version of yourself for whom the thing is already ordinary. And there's a specific window in your day when that installation becomes almost frictionlessly easy. A window most people sleep straight through without ever knowing they had it. That window is the 10 or 15 minutes right before you fall asleep, and the few blurry minutes after you wake before your mind fully boots up. Psychologists call that drowsy in-between state hypnagogia. Your brain waves slow, the critical, argumentative part of your mind loosens its grip, and for a short stretch you become genuinely suggestible. The same reason a song you half heard in that state gets stuck in your head for 3 days. Neville built almost his entire method around this window without the neuroscience to explain it. And he was right. During the day, if you tell yourself you're the person who's already won, some internal auditor immediately stands up and produces receipts proving otherwise. In that drowsy state, the auditor has gone home for the night. Whatever you feel there goes straight into the drawer where your self-concept is kept. So here's the exercise, and I want you to do it tonight rather than bookmark it. As you're lying there, don't visualize the thing you want from the outside like a movie trailer. That's watching, and watching keeps you a spectator to your own life. Instead, choose a single small moment that could only exist after it already happened. Not the check arriving, the Tuesday afternoon 3 weeks later when the money is simply normal. Not the message that changes everything. The moment you're pouring coffee and realize you haven't checked your phone with dread in a month. Put yourself inside that moment in first person. Feel the mug, notice the light, and then find the emotion underneath it, which is almost never excitement. It's something quieter. It's relief. It's the specific sensation of the striving being over. Sit in that feeling for 2 minutes and let yourself fall asleep from inside it. That relief is the whole mechanism. Excitement tells your nervous system the thing hasn't happened yet. Stay alert. Relief tells it the emergency is over. You can stand down. And a nervous system that has stood down behaves completely differently in daylight. It doesn't panic price its work. It doesn't reread a text 9 times before sending it. It doesn't flinch away from opportunity because opportunity means exposure. You will notice, within days, that you're perceiving options that were always sitting there in your peripheral vision. Not because reality rearranged itself, but because a threatened brain filters the world for threats, and a settled brain filters it for possibility. You've been walking through a room with the lights half off, then comes daylight, and daylight is where the claim gets made real, through details so small they feel almost silly. Answer emails the way the version of you who isn't desperate would answer them. 2 sentences, no over-explaining, no apologizing for existing. Clear the one corner of your home that a person with your future life wouldn't tolerate being messy. Delete the app you open when you're avoiding your actual work. Say a full price number out loud without softening it with "but I'm flexible." These aren't tricks, they're evidence. Your self-concept is built from evidence, and it doesn't care whether the evidence is dramatic, it cares whether it's consistent. 20 small acts of the new identity outrank one grand gesture every single time, because the grand gesture can be dismissed as a fluke, and the 20 cannot. And I need to prepare you for something, because it will happen and it will feel like failure when it isn't. About a week or 2 in, right when things start to move, you will hit a wall of resistance so strange and specific that you'll assume you've done something wrong. You'll feel oddly flat. You'll want to abandon the whole thing. You might pick a fight with someone you love, or suddenly become obsessed with a completely different project, or find yourself doing nothing at all with a kind of fog you can't explain. That is not a sign it isn't working. That is the security system noticing the walls of the room have moved and trying to move them back. It is the last argument of an identity that is losing its job. The only correct response is to recognize it, name it out loud. This is the old version negotiating, and go do one small ordinary thing the new version would do anyway. Resistance can't survive being witnessed. It only works while it's disguised as truth. Here is what I want you to take with you more than any technique. You have spent a long time treating your future self as a stranger you have to earn the right to meet. Some gatekeeper somewhere holding a list, and your name near the bottom. And if you just work a little harder and want it a little more quietly, maybe eventually you'll be called. There is no list. There never was. The person you keep aching toward at the kitchen sink is not waiting to be built. They're waiting to be inhabited. And the only distance between you and them was never time or talent or luck. It was one small internal gesture. The door you keep closing on yourself 40 times a day for years. Stop closing it. When the ache comes tonight, don't say back to reality. Say there it is and stay in it 30 seconds longer than is comfortable. That's the whole beginning. That's the entire crossing. One last thing before you go, and I'm genuinely curious about this one. I want you to name the specific ordinary moment you'd be living in 3 weeks after your thing has already happened. Not the win itself, but the boring Tuesday on the other side of it. Put it in the comments in one sentence. Something strange happens when you write it down in the present tense where other people can see it. It stops sounding like a wish and starts sounding like a memory. Go write the memory.